Okay, good evening. We know in this week's Parsha, Tazria, we have the halachos of a mitzorah, of a person who gets saras, which is not physical leprosy, it's a spiritual type of leprosy. And we know often, what's the main reason we assume people get saras? What sin? Lashon hara, evil talk about other people. Now, one thing the Torah says about the person, the mitzorah, the person who gets saras, says, Begadav yufurumin. His garments shall be rent. He has to tear his garments. And the Sefer Charedim, which was a medieval ethical sefer, he says, why does the person have to tear his garments? It's mida keneged mida, measure for measure. Because the mitzorah, the person with saras, embarrassed other people with his gossip, now he also has to experience embarrassment by walking around with torn clothing. And that's because if you walk around with torn clothing, that's something embarrassing. And we know clothing is particularly apt to making a person feel honored. As the Gemara says in Baba Kama, that Rava called his clothing honorers. That by wearing clothing, it gave him honor. And we know the type of clothing you wear. If you wear a tuxedo, you feel different than if you're wearing sweatpants. And the Chassam Sofer says something incredible about an incident earlier in the Torah regarding clothing. Earlier, we know when Rivka tells her son Yaakov to take the bracha from Yitzchak, which really belonged to Esau. What does it say? That Rivka took her old son Esau's bigdei Esau hachamudos, his nice clothing which were in the house, and they put it on Yaakov. So what was the reason she put Esau's clothing on Yaakov? Seemingly so he would resemble Esau. He would smell like Esau. He would feel like Esau if Yitzchak touched him. Right, the clothing was all hairy, which actually Yaakov did. Yitzchak did touch Yaakov to make sure that it was Esau. But the Chassam Sofer says there is a deeper reason why Rivka wanted Yaakov to wear Esau's clothing. And there's an astonishing Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi in Moed Katan, Parak Gimel, Halacha Aleph says that the character of a person gets soaked into their clothing. Incredible. And so what type of person was Esau? He was a deceitful person. So Rivka said, here's Yaakov. Yaakov's an emistic. He's a truthful type of person. By Yaakov putting on Esau's clothing, it'll help him get into that deceitful mode, the character traits of Esau, and it'll be easier for him to deceive his father and take the bracha. So the lessons we have is, A, we should be very careful not to embarrass others, especially with Lashon Hara. And of course, we should act in a way that that our clothing should be soaked with our good character traits and only good things.